everyone, this is Val from EurekaCrystalBeads.com with another sparkling beading video. But before I get started, here's a quick reminder to check out our channel, and if you like what you see, hit the subscribe button and notification bell to be notified every time we have a new listing. Our project today is a crystal twist bracelet. And it's a fun bracelet where you can actually depending on what part you like, you can wear it 3 different ways. So the products you'll be using today is you'll be needing 2 colors of bicone crystals. We're using 4mm today. And you're going to want to know that you're going to want a lighter color and a darker color. So colors in here, right in this middle, and the sides we're using the lighter shades. We'll also be needing some 15-0 gold seed beads, some 4mm pearls, toggle clasp, wire guards, crimp beads, size 11 beading needles. You'll be needing 010 soft touch wire, fire line in an 8-pound. You'll also be needing a fire line cutter, a flat nose plier, a scissors, and I also use this handy little gadget, which is like a bead stopper. So starting our project, we will be adding on our line one of these wire guards. So the wire guards, you're going to want to gently pull up to the center area of your line and then pull it down the opposite side. If you were just to pull it through and then run it through the other side, your line will most likely get really curly and then it would be kind of unusable or very difficult to work with. So I usually do half at a time and gently pull it down. Now you can add one side of your toggle clasp. So I usually start with this end. I don't know why, I just do. And then just bring it to the middle of your wire guard. And then you'll want to string up a crimp. So pick up one of your crimp beads and string it through both of your lines. Okay, just like that. And bring it up to your wire guard, the base of your wire guard. Okay, so now what I like to do is to gently squeeze your wire guard together so it comes more of a point right there, and then take your flat nose plier or your crimper tool and just smash that crimp bead. Okay, so I usually go from both directions. Just smash that. Okay, so now we're going to start adding our beads. So we're going to start with our charger color. So place one charger color on both of your lines and bring it down, and then separate your lines and add on each line one of your lighter colors. And just bring it down. So now it looks like this. And then add on one seed bead onto one side, and the other side will have 2 seed beads. Okay, so just like this. So 1 seed bead and then 2 seed beads. And then on one line, so I usually add on this side. So string up one of your charger colors, and with your opposite line, you're going to cross through. So cross through means you're going to go from the direction that your line was coming out of your bead and cross through that bead. So now your lines look like kitty cat whiskers. Bring your lines apart and lightly pull apart your lines. So kind of just gently pull it and then pull it tight. So now your beads look like this. So you see how this has 2 beads on this side and this side has 1? I'm going to go opposite now. So now this side is going to have 1 bead, and this side will have 2 of the little gold beads. And now each line will have 1 light color, just like this. So the side that has 1, we're going to add 2 beads to this side and 1 bead to this side. And I'm talking about the little gold beads. So 2 gold beads, 1 gold bead. So just keep in mind whatever you did on the line previously will now be the opposite. And yes, there is a method to this madness of 1 and 2 seed beads. It seems a little strange and like it takes a little bit more thought and more remembering, but I promise you at the end you'll know. So now we're going to add our charger bead. So every time we add our 2 light beads, the next bead will be a charger bead. So charge a bead on one side, the opposite line will cross through that charger bead. Okay, and then pull your lines apart. There you go. Just like this. All right, so now we're going to continue what we just did all the way up, and I'll catch up with you. So we're going to start with, just to remind you, 1 seed bead. This side will have 2 seed beads. All right, so I have roughly about 25 center beads to get the length that I want for my bracelet. So if you just count the middle down the center of your step ladder, the steps of your step ladder, then you can figure out how many you need, how many you have. Okay, so once you get to this part for your last section, so I crossed through my last of my charger bead, and I have one more each on the side of my light color beads. And instead of putting any more seed beads, I'm just going to directly add on my charger bead, my charger color rather. So I'm going to put both lines through that one, and then I'm going to add on my crimp bead onto both lines, just like that. And now I'm going to add on my wire guards. And because we're using the 010 in the soft touch, it's pretty small. It can go through the wire guards quite nicely, both strands. Okay, so actually before I slip my wire guard, my line on my opposite side, I'm going to string in my taco clasp. Just going to go over that. So it's just like this, going inside. And now I'm going to go through the other end of my wire guard, and I'm going to pull it out. So now I kind of want to just pull my line lightly, not too hard, because it makes it very curly if you do pull it too tight. So now at this point, because I'm getting kind of close to my project, I want to put my 2 ends through my crimp bead and through the bicone next to the crimp bead. You don't want to work too fast at this point, because you, like I mentioned earlier, you really don't want to curl that wire. So just pull ever so slightly, just pull it a little bit, not too much until you get to the end, and then you want to give it a nice tug just to make sure it's nice and tight. And then from here you can smash that little crimp bead there with either your crimp tool or with your flat nose plier. All right, so I finished off my bracelet with my clasp on both ends. And you can even leave this bracelet just the way it is. It's very nice and flexible. And you can see the difference of shades of color. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to start adding my pearls. So I strung about 27 inches of fire line onto a beading needle. I use a size 11 beading needle, and I'm going to just string. I'm going to sew my needle right through that one sideways bead right here. So the first charger bead that's going sideways, and then I want to make sure my thread is now in half and centered right where this bead is. And because I'm going to work with one side of my thread at a time, I'm just going to use this squeezy stopper right there just to hold it in place, because I don't want this thread to move around. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start sewing on my pearls. So I'm going to string up one pearl, and now you see my line is coming out from this end here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew into the opposite side on the next step. So right now I'm going to only be sewing the pearl into the steps of my bracelet. So again, my bead is here, and instead of going into the bead the same direction, I'm going to go the opposite way and go into this next bead the opposite direction. And you're going to see how it is starting to lay. So you see how the line is going sideways. Okay, so I'm going to do that another one. So string up your pearl on your needle, go from the opposite side. So if your bead is coming out from here, we're just going to go from the opposite end and sew into here. Just sew into just the bicone. Okay, and we're going to do that to the next. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do that same thing all the way till you get to this bead right here. Okay, so keep going, doing the same thing I just did all the way to the top. So one more time just before I continue. Just overlay it over and go on the opposite. Sew across and pull out your thread. And at this point, you don't have to worry about your threads being being tight right now and having good tension, because you're going to fix it all when you do the next side. But you don't want to have big loops. Just kind of want to make sure it's laying nicely. All right, so I'm going to continue doing this, and I'll catch up with you as soon as I'm done with this side to start the next side. All right, so I'm at the point where I have finished adding my center beads all the way down my ladder, just like this, and I just realized that I could actually kind of leave this bracelet just this way too. It's kind of cool. And so you see how you have the lighter colors on the outsides, and in the centers we have that brighter, darker charger color. So what I did now is I took my needle off and I added it to the other end. So, but now I want to leave this thread and I don't want to tie it off yet. So I'm going to move this little gadget here down so that it can hold my line in place, just like this. So now I'm free to work with my other side. And so now I'm going to work on the back side of this bracelet. So you see how this is the top, and now we're going to work on the back, on the bottom side, right? So now we can start adding in our next pearl. And keep in mind how we had our beads here. There is a method to the madness. So how we did the 1 and then the 2, and then on this side we have the opposite. So now this side has 1, this side has 2, and it just keeps going, alternating the beads as we went all the way up. So as we do that, now we're going to add in our pearls, and we'll do the same thing we did on the other side. So if our pearl was coming out through here, we're going to sew in through the opposite side. So instead of sewing in the same direction, from the same direction, we're going to sew into the middle beads from the opposite direction. Keep in mind it's getting a little tighter in that bead, so you may have to kind of pull your threads a little bit tighter. So as you're pulling this, because we did the opposites on the beads, you see it's going to start to naturally twist. And this is where it comes into play that we did our opposites with our seed beads. So again, we have here, we're going to go through the opposite and pull our line and pull this. Now you see how it's already starting to twist. So this is how it looks, flat and twisted. So let's do a few more. This is my favorite part, where it all starts to take shape. So go from the opposite. And I chose blue because it's summer after all, and I went to the beach today and the water was just gorgeous and blue. So this is the color that was on my mind. And with this, you want to kind of give it a nice tug every time you pull your thread out from the bead. Just give it a nice tug. If it doesn't start to get tight as you go along, then just kind of pull up the bead before and pull the bead that you just did, and then pull your threads tight so that it gives you that more kind of a tighter look, and that you won't see so much thread hanging around just like looped over. Okay, so here, go through the opposite. And another thing you could do too, if you finding that it's hard to get through and maybe it's hard in your heart, kind of hard in your fingers, take your plier, take a round nose, a flat nose, and just kind of pull your needle out. It just gives you kind of a little bit more leverage. Just keep pulling. I'm going to do one more just so you can see. Okay, so then just pull it. Super easy with a plier, right? Okay, and just pull. So now you can see a better idea of how it's looking. You see that right there? And this is the flat portion again, just so you can see it. So by adding those seed beads the way we did, it makes it twist. If we didn't add the seed beads, it would not twist the same like how it is now. So I'm going to continue on this, finishing up this step, and I'll be back. I've gotten to the end of my bracelet, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take away my coil here, and I'm going to string up my last pearl, my final pearl, and I'm going to sew into the same last bead here, the opposite direction. And then just pull my line tight. Now, if you see little spaces between line between the pearls and you don't like that, just go from two sides, from both sides, and pull the pearls apart. And then go to the next pearl set, pull that apart just to make it tighten. So it will tighten as you work your way, pull your lines tight at the end. So you see how by doing that, it makes it a little tighter, the pearls a little tighter and closer to the project. So now what you want to do is I'm going to actually bring my needle back onto my line, onto one of my line, one side. And now what I want to do is I want to bring my line back to this opposite side of my bead. So I just need to find a way to do that. So I'm just going to go up to this crystal and down the next crystal. And it's still a little higher up, so I'm going to sew down through these little seed beads right here. Okay, and then let's get this and tie your fire line now into a knot. And then sometimes I just kind of take my tool on one side and my fingers on the other side and just pull really tight, just because I'm a little bit paranoid. And then from here, you can put your needle back onto your line and sew down some of the beads just to kind of finish it off. So we're going to sew our thread into a couple of beads. And again, if the needle is a little hard to get through, use your tool to help pull that needle out. And just sew through at least a few beads. And do the same thing to the opposite side. And so here you go. Here is your Crystal Twist Bracelet. It's fun and twisty. So like always, all of the supplies we used in today's video are available on EurekaCrystalBeads.com, and all the supplies we used in today's tutorial are listed in the comment section below. Thanks for joining us.